You're welcome to Let's Talk.
We sit down and talk. We need to sit down and talk. How Nigeria corruption, how we're going to do our job.
You want to stand up and say no to corruption. We're going to do our job because you're telling the system. You are not just doing good for yourself or for the nation alone. You also do good for the future.
Boko Haram is an attack. It's a spiritual attack. It's a satanic attack on Nigeria. We must, if we come to recognize it, we will understand then how to look for the solution.
The Sovereign National Conference, how do we want to achieve that in our prison system? We need to sit down and iron out how Nigeria should be governed.
And welcome again. It's Let's Talk. And today we'll be talking about issues, things that bordering on experience in life, so many important issues. And today we'll be zeroing in on one actually, which is preventing ocean surge disasters in African waterways. It has a lot to do with our environment here, and definitely it is a very important issue right now. When you look at what is happening around the world, you see a lot of ocean surge like the one that happened recently in Lagos State here, southwest Nigeria, and other parts of the world too. It is a major concern. But today I will be putting our searchlight on Lagos State right now, and with me to embark on this expedition is Tony Osuma. He's an architect, town planner, social expert, and socio-political analyst. Welcome to the show, sir.
Pleasure to be
It's
here.
great to have you.
Yeah.
You know, this is a very, very crucial topic at this very point in time. I think it's very timely, considering the what has been happening environmentally. The climate right now seems to be going haywire, if I can use that expression, because many analysts have said man's activities actually have not helped. And now we have issues of global warming and many more environmental challenges. You're an architect, a town planner, and many times your impact, your relevance in society really has not been emphasized, you know, as it should have. Enlightenment about how relevant your expertise is needed, you know, right now in terms of making sure that man coexists with its environment, you know, in a peaceable way. Right now, the Lagos ocean surge that was experienced recently claimed a lot of lives. We can't really ascertain how many lives were lost because they said Lagos State government has abandoned the search, okay, to find out if there are still many more people that were missing. But what do you think is responsible for the this rising tide and water flow that caused that magnitude of disaster? What do you think is responsible for it?
Well, the environment is something that man cannot afford to live without a consciousness of it. Okay. Especially since we are in the coast. Being a coastal city, Lagos, I believe this is a call. Okay. You know, it's a call. It's a wake-up call, really. Surges are caused by, you know, a sudden rise. Sometimes we are not in the earthquake-prone regions, so these are not like tidal waves or the tsunamis. Those ones are caused by eruptions deep in the ocean.
The Earth's crust.
Yes, and those we send very high ripples of several meters high, hitting the shores. Now, what we're experiencing is this tidal wave that comes as a result of the meltdown in two regions of the world. Okay. You see, water has a balance on the earth. Okay. In such a sensitive and a very sensitive way. The Arctic and the Antarctic region store most of the universal water as ice.
Ice caps, okay.
As ice. But with increased heat, what has happened is that we have more ice as water, or we have more water than ice right now. Okay. So the ocean level from time to time is just keep going up. And I'm not surprised that we are feeling it here. What we've been having have been what we call the interior problem of flooding. It has to do with our drainages in our canals. But what hit the Koramo part of our beach is one of those surge, and we had better be prepared for it because it will come again.
Okay.
We've experienced that before the beach banks were raised, the bar beach.
Okay.
Before those boulders and the reinforcements were put there, it rose before and covered the road. And anyone living in that axis must be very cautious to listen to environmental reports and announcements, warnings. I'm rightfully informed that at that part of the beach, they had warnings like a week or so before the time. But you see, people who were there at that time had been trapped in there by circumstances of life. They're not just going for fun. A lot of them do business there. They were living there. They were living in shacks there.
They had no alternative.
That was an abuse of the environment. It's like sleeping right there out of the ocean, day in, day out. The ocean is a mass of water. And then it can come and go. You understand? The tides rise and then they recede again.
Recede again, especially in that part of Lagos State where close to the bar beach, they've built water breaks.
Yes.
The government has spent billions of naira building water breaks there, but in spite of that, it hasn't really helped, to stem the tide that comes. Do you think the activities of the people around that area, as you said, do you think the activities too has helped to trigger this ocean surge? Maybe talking about structural developments around that area or whatever.
Well, looking at particularly what happened there, it had nothing to do with the planning regulations around that area.
Okay.
This was not an obstruction that came on the waterway because it's a flow from the deep seas.
Okay.
Okay. There has been a rise of the water right in the means of the ocean, and then it is the bank that received the beat. Once these waves, this surge comes in, it's going to flow and hit the banks before it goes back. Okay. It may come again, and then it actually dies down.
Okay.
So it had nothing to do with those, but actually their being there at that time was actually a very endangering to their lives, because they have to have the understanding that these water tides are not temporal. They're not always at the same level.
Right.
From time to time, the surge comes, and sometimes you see very high waves, even when it's still normal. They see it, and then they're taking it for granted. So to answer the question, I don't think it had to do with any of the restrictions on how they have built or planned structures around there.
Okay. But yes. do you think, in essence, what are you saying that right now to live around the coastal areas of, like that, do you think it's better to evacuate people away from the coast right now?
Yes. The coasts, especially the beaches, is a place for temporary stay. Okay. You could go there and have a vacation, have a time out, have a night.
So
you go live there.
You can't have a beach house like you have in the Western world. So people have a beach house.
Well, for an active beach, you can't put anything there. Okay. You can. It's possible to build something that stays and holds, but it has to be built. And such a structure is built to respond to the surge.
All right.
You understand? It's a structure deliberately built to stay there on the beach. But when you're talking about habitation where normal people should live, even the cost of putting such a structure will be abortive for private individuals. So the beach is a place where you could go and have a temporal activity. But to go live on the beach is like going to it's like, I don't know how to describe it fully, because it has to do with the sense of the water being unrestricted. That's the water's place. Okay. That's the borders. That's where the waters play their games. Okay. And when it becomes a big game like this heavy tide, it's going to hit heavy on the shores. Okay. It will rise very far into the landscape before it recedes. Okay. If you have seen the tsunamis, when they hit the bank, after a while they dry up. But that first impact, you had better not be there at that time.
Okay. Let's look at this from this angle now. Right, based on the backdrop of what has happened recently in concerning the Koramo disaster, the ocean surge at Koramo Beach. Now, the residents have called and said the ongoing construction of a co-Atlantic city by this Lagos state has actually triggered this ocean surge, according to them. And because of the sand filling and dredging work that is part of the ongoing construction work happening there, reclamation of land from the water, that it has been pushing the water back, has now triggered the water to come back. You know, as I said, whatever you take from nature is a debt, and it's you're going to pay back sometime. So do you think that has also, according to their own side of the story?
I do not think so, because the response of the water, the way it came this time, that's why we describe it as a surge.
Okay.
It had to do with something that was triggered off immediately, and then it receded again. Construction work, I don't want to imagine. I don't know what kind of construction can.
Well, a project of that magnitude, you know, and it's
well, the sand filling, you know, when you do sand filling, you push the water.
Yes.
Okay, but it is the edges of the water that shows a gradual response.
Okay.
It's a water body.
Okay.
But you see, ocean activity have to do with forces deep inside the ocean.
Inside.
What translates on the water surface as a result of things that are far deeper inside. So when you are at the edge, what you're feeling at the edge is
insignificant.
It's insignificant at all. What you should do is just respond to what has happened. It has nothing to do with any construction that has been on the land. To have any impact on the earth from a construction site of that magnitude, that they are not cracking or it's not a mine place, it's not an explosion. So it's not possible, and the impact would have been on the other side of the ocean. In other words, the waves will ripple back. It's not strong enough to cause anything like that. So it's actually a force from deep within the ocean.
All right. Okay, now let's look at this issue globally. Now, right now, the West is used to this kind of attacks. Let me say attacks from nature is used to these things, and they respond adequately because over a space of time, they've learned how to deal with these things when they happen. Do you think in Africa, what's our response rate? Do you think it's good enough? Do we have something in place? If not in Nigeria, do we have something in place to address, you know, to react to these things when they happen? Or if we don't, what do you think should be put in place?
Well, I do not think that we have any kind of awareness that is good enough.
Okay.
We don't have anything in place that is significant enough to protect anyone who has any activities to be at our shores and the beaches. Too little has been done. Because it has not been a problem over the years, we have gone to sleep about the fact that we have the shores just beside our own land as a nation. We don't have too many water activities as a people. You know, the blacks, we are not the water kind. All our resorts and our vacations do not have to do with experiencing water. And our beaches are largely undeveloped. But at this point, the activities of the ocean can no longer be quiet and cannot be put aside. Okay. We must take adequate steps to, first of all, educate. It takes education like this. Now that the pain of this ban is still there, this is the right time to actually get on a campaign. Okay. An orientation, awareness campaign to alert, especially those on the shores, all activities there. Right. We should put signages there. Okay. We should warn people about the activities of the ocean, the nature. And then our environmental analysts, those who are in charge of studying weather change. Our
meteorologists, right?
Yes. They should actually be more vibrant. Okay. The government should give them a voice. I know they are there. The warnings came, you know, but I don't think we are taking them any more seriously than we've done in the past. This has not been a kind of problem we have ever heard of before. Right. But the environmental analysts and their reports on weather must be taken very seriously. Okay. And then it should be something that we spread around, especially all the beaches. It's fun to go have fun in the beach, but to go put a structure there and live there, you must be seeing the sign every day and know that if it happens,
Okay.
You're on your own.
You're on your own.
Yes.
Well, talking about structures, that takes me back to the issue of the Co-Atlantic City project now. It's in Lagos State's attempt to drive tourism and bring in, much needed funds. They have embarked on this project, which is supposed to be in the middle of the ocean, the sea. Right? And do you think the government has said in 3 years it will be ready for habitation? And do you think that this is a wise move by the government in terms of security of lives? Do you think that project is a laudable one? And do you think people should be wary?
Well, as an environmental designer, I thrive on creativity.
Okay.
But I am guided by science. Guided by structures, guided by physics and all the laws of nature put together. These kind of structures and buildings are not new.
Considering the fact that we've read in the papers, a lot of analysts have said that, look, Lagos State's activities and the coastal areas are not helping the environment. And this project now, it's going to cost billions of naira. And we must be aware that we just must not look at the economic side. We must also look at, if it has adverse effects. People talk about environmental impact assessments. What's your own, say on the environmental impact of that project?
Well, you just actually mentioned the most critical thing that is done for projects of that magnitude and sensitivity. The assessments are usually concluded before the projects are ever approved.
Okay.
So I believe that that project has gone through an assessment of the impact to have on the environment.
Okay.
Now, there's no need to be wary and afraid of a structure like that. The fact that we're moving into the waters region and building doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be trouble. It's sustainable. It has been done in many parts of the world before. However, we should know what to stretch and what not to stretch. All the principles and the laws of the construction that guide the safety of that kind of project have to be put in place. All the clauses in that environmental impact assessment have to be washed. And then the fact that nature itself can give a surprise is a part of what we all live with every day. Even when it's dry, even when it's not a place built in the ocean, things can still crop up. So if the state government wants to go into a project like that, I welcome it. I believe we have shores that should be utilized. I believe activities there can be managed. They have been managed. It is possible to manage them and actually to make great profit from it. But all the processes of going through the structure, the effectual building of the place, all the approvals that need to be done must be carefully followed through.
Carefully followed through.
If the risk of building on ground is there, then the risk here is high and must be managed very carefully.
In case you just joined us, we're almost through the whole discussion, but we've been talking about preventing ocean surge disasters in African waterways. And with me, an analyst, an architect, a town planner, Mr. Tony Osuma, has been shedding some light on the issue. Now, Mr. Tony, looking at this whole situation right now on ground, you've talked about government hasn't done enough to put in place measures to stem, any disaster that might happen. Okay, now what is the role of government now? Because I believe it's not only the government that has a part to play. I think the private sector too must be alert to, the situation on ground and to harness all these resources in one place. What do you think the government should do to work in, tandem with the private sector?
Well, I believe that Lagos State government should actually give more voice, strength, and relevance to our offshore ministry. It's important for that ministry to begin to go into mass awareness campaigns. And then that ministry should carefully supervise the activities of the private sector in that region. It's a ministry that takes care of our shores. Most of Lagos is the shore, actually. And for a city like Lagos, a metropolis like Lagos, that ministry has very important role in the development. Because as a city on the coast, we must explore building structures and activities both on the water and on the land. It's inevitable looking forward to structures and activities on these areas, because this is where we're living, is the land around us. But it must be planned, and the ministry in charge of this must be given a greater power to control the development through this private sector. Companies, individuals who are going into any kind of activities in these areas must be carefully supervised. They must go through the due process put in place by our planning societies and organizations.
All right, sir, tell us, what do you think the way forward is preventing more of these events in future?
Well,
just a short take.
In closing, I would say the best thing we can do in planning for the future as a city that has the coast and the shores beside us is to become proactive in anticipating these incidents.
As always.
Yes, because the best you can do is have a plan to prevent and a plan to react when it happens. The causative side of it is not too much in our control. Generally, there's a meltdown. The ozone layer is depleting. There's a heat in the atmosphere. The heat is causing much more water to be on our shores, in the ocean. The tide is rising. There's a disbalance in the function. Surges are going to come again and again. The government should do their part in orienting the society, in giving information, in creating an alert. And then the department that has to do watch over our environment should quickly, proactively give the signals and the warnings as soon as we can, sense it coming. We must react professionally.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Tony. It's been a wonderful experience with you. And, we've been talking about preventing ocean surge disasters in African waterways. And that's how we bring the ship of Let's Talk to birth today. And it's been a wonderful experience. Mr. Tony, you've been brilliant. Thank you very much. I hope you find time to come back to the show with us. All right. And apparently that's all for today on Let's Talk. You can also get more updates from us on our website.
You're welcome to Let's Talk.
We sit down and talk. We need to sit down and talk. How Nigeria corruption, how we're going to do our job.
If one can stand up and say no to corruption, we're going to do our job, protecting the system. You are not just doing good for yourself or for the nation, you also do good for the future.
Boko Haram is an attack, it's a spiritual attack. It's a satanic attack on Nigeria. We must, if we come to recognize it, we will understand then how to look for the solution.
The Sovereign National Conference, how do we want to achieve that in our present system? We need to sit down and iron out how Nigeria should be governed